All right, we are so excited to have Dr. Anderson back here in the studio after a great Thanksgiving break for everybody on campus. Now back into the swing of things for a few weeks here as we get prepared for finals and the end of the semester. This is such a fun time of year. There are parties, there are Christmas concerts, there are 12 days of Christmas chapels,
Right.
all sorts of things to get to as we wrap up the year. So tell me, Dr. Anderson, just kind of how, from your perspective, how the first semester has gone this year, and what are some of the things that we're looking forward to here in December?
Thanks, Trent. I think it's been a really, really great semester, and I think last year, of course, was wonderful. Year one under our belts, and then really having a greater sense of direction, mostly because we have the vocabulary now that tells us where we're going.
Absolutely.
So we are a school that exists to live for God and love like Jesus and learn for life. And slowly but surely, those are becoming more than just words on a page, or words in a pamphlet or words on the website. And I think they're migrating into our heads and into our hearts and really driving everything that we do. And I think we're starting to see it attitudinally and behaviorally more and more in our students. I would go so far as to say our faculty and staff as well, that everybody seems to understand what the destination is, and we're trying to collaboratively now figure out more and more how we walk that journey together. So there have been some great resources that have come our way. I think we hit a pretty big home run with our friends from Catapult Learning. They've made some major made a major impact on the outcomes that we see, particularly in literacy, reading, learning, comprehension. And we've introduced a new tool, at least new to Midland Christian School, which is Avid. And parents, faculty, and staff are going to be hearing a whole lot more about that over the next several months. A few of us are heading to a training conference in a few days to learn a lot more about that, how we roll that out as a district. God sent some amazing faculty members our way and staff members our way, and the students who are coming our way are just seemingly some of the cream of the crop. So we're truly, truly excited about where we are this semester, but also where we're going. And so all glory to God for that.
Yeah, it's always fun when I'm walking around campus and I see, Addie on a tour with a new family, and it seems like every week there's another family on campus that's just interested about what is the school all about, and that's just a neat opportunity for her and for our campus to really to tell our story, and to point those towards the one for whom we live that story.
Yeah.
And so just a fun time to be on campus here, and really some big some movement, some physical movement, some things you can see from the street now as our annual fund is in full swing. We're already starting to see some of the fruits of that fund this year. Tell me kind of where we are with the annual fund as we reach the end of this semester.
Yeah, we're so grateful for our donors who love Midland Christian and have been supporting Midland Christian. It's just been really, really wonderful to see. This past week we had a handful of rather sizable donations that came in, families who love the school, individuals who love the school and want to see her thrive. And so we're grateful for that. And even grateful, we've had some donations like in the $5 range, and we're grateful for those too. Every little bit makes a huge impact ultimately. If you've driven by the school recently, you'll notice something that's a little bit odd about the playground. Currently, there isn't one. It looks like, maybe kind of a war zone of sorts or something, as all the concrete is turned up and the turf is peeled back and the playscapes are gone. But fear not, elementary. We have new playscapes that are coming, and our hope is that those will be assembled and ready for use shortly after the first of the year. We've cordoned off some sections, and so it's safe to be out there on part of the turf, and I think some of our team members are taking advantage of that. But and the cooler weather's here, so we may have found ourselves inside on a day or two anyway, and so we think it'll work out well, and we think the kids are really, really going to enjoy it when we kind of have that unveiling, hopefully not too long after everybody gets back after Christmas break.
Okay, well, I've got you on record now. And Langford girls, there is a new playground coming. That was the one question they had for you was, at what point will we have a new playground?
Yes.
So we're looking forward to that to start in January next year as we start a new semester. As we've spoken the last few times that you've been here with us in studio, we've been going through our care acrostic as we start to talk about our ideal graduate profile and really kind of how that plays out throughout the school year. The first pillar that we talked about a few weeks back now was Christ likeness. And so I appreciated, you're walking us through what does that actually mean on a day-to-day basis? How does that play out for teachers and staff and students? And now we want to move to the second pillar, which is academic preparedness. I know as we've had interactions with parents and different surveys and really trying to get to the heart of, why are students here?
Right.
One of the biggest reasons is so that they are prepared for whatever they choose to pursue after graduation at Midland Christian. So let's walk through academic preparedness and what does that look like for students here at Midland Christian.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation, and especially today, because when we think about being prepared academically, obviously it's one of our highest callings. It's one of the primary reasons that we exist as a school. And the thing that I think actually drew us to Midland Christian from day one was this partnership with parents, and our parents do care about academics. I mean, of course, the majority of them do. Some of our students are going to naturally be academically gifted. That's just the way things work sometimes. Our kiddos sometimes are just born seemingly being able to intuit, whether it's advanced mathematics or advanced science concepts or whatever it might be. Other kids may struggle, or maybe they're gifted in another area. And so what we're trying to do is figure out, okay, how do we make sure that every student who is part of Midland Christian School, how do we make sure that all of them have the opportunity to thrive? So what we have been about the last 2 years is aligning tools and resources and personnel to make sure that we're always putting our best foot forward to give our students every advantage that they need in order to excel. There's been some things that we've done that we pulled out from the doc thinking, oh, wow, this is a great idea. And maybe it didn't work out as well as we had hoped, but the old adage, no risk, no reward, is true even in the world of academics. We have to try some things to see what sticks, to see what our students respond positively to see what our faculty and staff respond positively to, and of course parents as well. But I think now that we have those 2 years in our rear view, we're really, really positioned well to do some pretty cool things academically. If you as parents have seen our care acrostic that Trent mentioned, Christ-likeness and academic excellence, being relationship-driven and being emotionally intelligent, you'll know that there are kind of 4 subcomponents of academic excellence. And I'll speak to those specifically, and then I would like to talk a little bit more generally about kind of what's happening in the world of academia. So we want our students to be able to think critically. One of the things that our parents will notice when they hear more about AVID is how this resource helps our students do that. Our faculty members already know how to do that professionally, perhaps intuitively to a lesser degree. But what we're excited about is the tools in this AVID toolbox that are really going to help take critical thinking to the next level. This day and time, we as human beings tend to respond very quickly out of emotion. And one of the things that critical thinking gives us the ability to do is just to say, okay, time out. Let me think through this. Let's see if my lived experience coupled with the evidence that's in front of me, coupled with this perspective and that perspective, kind of gives us more of a whole picture rather than, oh my goodness, this happened and I'm mad and I'm just going to do something about it. And so I think we've had quite a bit of that's happened, obviously, particularly since the advent of social media, that we kind of have become comfortable. I guess as we became comfortable launching hand grenades at one another from a distance, we kind of morphed into being more comfortable throwing hand grenades at one another close up and personal. And I guess the best emotion I feel, speaking of emotions, is just kind of a sense of sadness that we don't love each other enough or respect each other enough to really respond more with, that's interesting. Let's break that down. Let's see what's behind it. Let's process through it, and as followers of Jesus, pray through it at the same time to see where we land. So we definitely want to make sure that we're raising young men and women who are critical thinkers. Another subcomponent of academic excellence is to create young men and young women who are problem solvers. And I'm pretty sure everybody who's listening will agree that, we don't have to solve problems like we used to. When you and I were in school, probably more so for me, you're quite a bit younger than I am, but when we were in school, our teacher would say, okay, show me your work. Yep. How did you get from whatever the stated problem was to your answer? And we now live in a time where, due to search engines and even more so recently, artificial intelligence, we don't have to rely so much on digging into the problem and doing the hard work. But we want our students to be able to do that. Yeah. I don't want to have open heart surgery from someone who's Googling instructions during the operation. I want the guy or the gal who in medical school really worked hard to figure out exactly how the human body works and how the heart works and how it responds and the chemicals that comprise it, on and on and on the list goes, and apply that to your discipline, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. We want to create young men and young women who are problem solvers and aren't just kind of Googling their way through life, or chat GPTing their way through life. I think I just made up some new verbs there, but our critical thinkers and problem solvers could figure that out, right?
I think our English department will let that one slide.
I think they probably will. Yeah, they probably will. We think coming out of that, if we can really pour into students and help them master critical thinking and master problem solving skills, and which, by the way, both of those are skills that can be learned. But if we can help them, then what that positions our students to become, we believe, will be excellent communicators. And as competitive as the world is these days, companies in the United States just don't recruit from the local talent pool anymore. They literally will recruit around the world to find the talent that's going to help move them as an organization forward. And one of the things that sets potential employees apart from others are those employees who can really, really be articulate. And let's say you're not an employee. Let's say you leave and do your thing, whatever that looks like, and you become the owner of a company someday and you have people working for you. Hey, the clearer your communication ability, the clearer your listening abilities, the more likely you are to be successful long term. And so we really do see a cause and effect. Problem solving, being a critical thinker, is going to lead to being an effective communicator. And all of that is kind of summed up, I think, in that last aspect of academic preparedness. And by the way, if you've looked at the ideal graduate profile, that's not an exhaustive list. These are just some of the subcomponents that comprise academic excellence. And so as we think about these first three pieces, being critical thinkers, being problem solvers, which positions our students to really be effective communicators, not just in the future, but even right now. As they're advocating for themselves with their teachers, or as they're listening, interacting with faculty and staff members, processing, thinking about life with their parents, effectively communicating with the Lord in prayer, and what that means as the Lord speaks back to us. If it's going to happen, there's really one critical cog in the wheel that has to be part of the formula, and that is students have to choose to be personally responsible. And we've talked about this quite a bit, especially with our faculty and staff, and I hope our students know this too. We don't play gotcha at Midland Christian School. We're not walking around trying to find students doing things wrong so that we can jump on them, and say, oh, how horrible of a student. Of course not. That's just not how we're wired. We are here to help students realize and become the very best version of themselves that they can be through the power of God's Holy Spirit and by purposefully choosing to pour into them. But we can't make students learn. We can't make students want to have a great attitude or make students want to behave. At some point in the journey, that becomes a personal choice for them. But I believe with all of my heart, if those students will take on, hey, I am ultimately responsible for my learning. And you know what? When things don't go my way, I'm not going to point the finger and say, well, if my teacher would, or if administration would, or if my parents would. Instead, I'm going to say, okay, what do I need to do to make a difference in this particular situation that I now find myself in? If students can get to the place where they do that, man, that's kind of a huge leap from being a little boy and a little girl to being a young man and a young woman, and which ultimately then is that transition from young man and young woman to young adult that is choosing to be a productive contributor to not only society, but even more importantly than that, to the kingdom of God.
Absolutely. And I think of a number of students, individuals who have come through the school, especially in the last couple of years, who have had that component and the compound effect that it can have on their experience and their education and what they're capable of accomplishing while they're not only while they're here, but moving forward in life. And I really do think it sets you on a different path.
Absolutely.
Once that hurdle has been made, and just a great foundation. I was just thinking as you were talking about when you do have conflict, when you do fail.
Right.
Okay, let's go back and let's examine.
Yeah.
Were we critical thinkers when we made that decision? Right? Am I being personally responsible in the way that I handle this, this set of circumstances? Did I communicate? Man, we didn't run the right play.
Right.
I must not have been a great communicator in that moment.
Yeah.
That's where I need to be better. So it just takes us to a different place as a community as well. And you talk about the shared language that we have now, and it's something that it's not out of sight or out of reach for anybody inside of our community. So I just appreciate the focus and a little more context today as we continue to dig into our ideal graduate profile and what it means for our campus.
I appreciate that so much, and there obviously are so many resources that are not mentioned in the ideal graduate profile. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't really remember a lot of the curricula that I used when I was a child. I don't really remember a lot of worksheets and projects. I mean, there's some that are sprinkled in that I have a memory of, but the people that I remember the most are those teachers and those coaches and even administrators that I knew when I was younger that just poured into my life day after day after day. And I think if there's anything that really sets Midland Christian apart, it is our faculty and staff. I mean, we don't have a single staff person that walks on water. So, I mean, every single person here is going to have a bad day every once in a while. That's just life. But I think if you pull back and look at it big picture, the number of our faculty and staff members who just absolutely positively are here for our students. I mean, they genuinely love them. And I think it's because they genuinely love the Lord and they know the joy of life in Jesus. And they want so badly for our students to know and to understand that as well. So there really is no such thing as a perfect curricula. If there was one that existed, every single school on the planet would use it. There's no such thing as a perfect approach. Again, if that existed, every single school on the planet would be using it. So, but I do think there are those wonderful when you start mixing the ingredients, and you're pulling this little piece in, or maybe, oh no, I'm sorry, we dabbed a little bit too much of that in there, so we need to kind of pull back on that a little bit. What's happening over time is that we're in this new season. I guess we could say a new season of seasoning, right? That we're growing the culture that we really, really desire. Some folks are going to want us to get there faster. Some folks are very comfortable with the pace at which we're going. Some folks probably aren't really concerned about it at all. They're just glad to be a part of the family. And so, but I think we're moving at a pace that is digestible. I think it is sustainable. And I think it's both aspirational as we think about the future and inspirational. Yeah. If we'll just pause and kind of let ourselves soak in the power of what God's doing at Midland Christian School right now.
Well, an appropriate analogy as we move out of the Thanksgiving week, a season of seasoning. I love looking forward to our next podcast, moving into the relationship-driven piece, and you just kind of touched on that. It's, there's so many things that we can purchase curriculum and we can get all the right numbers and places and data in the right spots, but if you don't have that connection with people and the community here, it may all be for naught.
Right.
And so we look forward to continuing that conversation as we reach the end of the first semester. Dr. Anderson, thank you as always for dropping by.
Absolutely.
And spending some time, and we look forward to doing it again soon as we move into the new year.
It's great. Thank you, Trent.